Hey guys, welcome back. I think we're live, so just gonna wait another just a little bit. Okay, sound is great. All right, thanks Anik. I am so excited guys today. uh, we've been doing a bunch of these webinars, right? Those of you who keep coming back, you know that we do a bunch of these webinars, and mostly we take like a beautiful web page, or of late we've been taking these really famous apps, right? Like Instagram or WhatsApp. We took Slack. The last couple of webinars have been on Slack, right? We designed the landing page. Then we went ahead and we designed we designed the conversation view. We actually ended up designing the app itself, the UI of the app. And you guys showed a lot of love last time. So I really hope, those of you who are joining us new, you can check the description for, or in the chat, we'll share the link to the previous webinars as well. So please go ahead, check those out. In those webinars, we basically from scratch, like we always do, from scratch, right from our very first line of HTML, very first line of CSS, in about 45 minutes, I think about 45 minutes to 1 hour, we're able to build a mini version of the actual Slack app. Okay, so that was huge. And I don't know, to me it looked and felt like the real thing. Okay, so I think that was a really good, that was good progress last time, right? But again, as with most of these webinars, at the end of the day, what do we have? What do we have in hand? We have a good looking page, a good looking mock-up of an app, even a good looking skeleton of an app, right? So for instance, we did WhatsApp web. That was almost pixel perfect, right? You had the contacts and you had the messages. But what's lacking? What is still lacking? Why doesn't it, what could make it even more kick-ass? Think about it. All our web page up until now, they've not been interactive, right? Like an actual app. They've not been very interactive, which means you probably, when you click on, the WhatsApp, your friend's name on WhatsApp, the conversations between you and your friend are what load up. But in the app that we designed, that wasn't happening, right? But again, the purpose of that, those webinars, was just to get the UI in place. All right, and today I'm really excited to tell you that we'll be adding a little bit of JavaScript to make that interactivity possible. Okay, so today we're going to take the Slack app that we built last time around. We're going to throw in a little bit of JavaScript, throw in a little bit of love from our side, and you'll have an app that's actually responsive to your clicks. You click on a channel, it shows you all the stuff that's on the channel, right? You switch to another channel, these messages go away, new messages come up. And finally, once I am able to show you just how ridiculously simple it is, okay, just how easy it is, just how fun it is to do this 15-20 lines of JavaScript, man. That's all we'll use to get our messages going. Okay, once we do that, I'm going to take this a little further. Okay, one step further. I will hook my app up to a backend API. Okay, and I don't want to get into the details right now. I just want to dive in, show you some JavaScript magic. But what we'll be able to do is, essentially, we're connecting our HTML and CSS to a separate piece of software, okay, sitting somewhere else in the world. Like somebody else might have written it. It's called an API. Okay, so somebody else has written that API. The API contains actual messages from Slack. It's a dummy API that we created, but so you'll have actual messages, okay, and that's how you build a real application as well. You have two parts to it. You have your front end and you have your back end. So in the last part of today's webinar, I'm going to show you that if suppose magically somebody gave you a backend, okay, somebody gave you this this Flask application or Express application or whatever, how would you connect your app to that one? Okay, and okay, you know what? Let me save that for last. It's going to be a kick-ass surprise. Okay, the first time that I learned this, guys, I remember feeling so, just so powerful. Okay, HTML, CSS, again, I keep telling you, it's easy to learn. You get to build beautiful interfaces, kind of like the things that you see on the screen. By the way, for those of you new who are joining us for the first time, these are all projects that we've done before, guys. Right, and this is what we built the last time around. Okay, we built this Slack app. And today we're going to see how to use JavaScript to populate all of this. Okay, instead of hard coding, instead of writing Fatima Parveen or Karandeep Singh, I want to actually, use JavaScript to generate that for me. Okay, and you'll see the benefits in just a bit as to why we do that. Before I proceed, again, you know me, I do this every week. I don't know if you're tired of me, but I'm not tired of doing this, guys. I absolutely love this bootcamp. Lot of time, lot of effort, lot of energy, lot of love has gone into building this. At Edyst, we run this webmaster bootcamp. It's an intense 3 to 6 month, okay, depending on how new you are to programming or what kind of time commitment you can give. It's a 3 to 6 month intensive bootcamp wherein we teach you all the basics, the fundamentals of anything that you need to be a web developer. Okay, and this is not some toy hobby project, the kind that we're building, the things that you do in 45 minutes. It gets way more detailed than that. Okay, we teach you Linux, we teach you the command line, we teach you Git, we teach you SQL, we teach you obviously HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We go into depth into all of these, right? And by the end of it, it's a very exercise driven, it's a very project heavy course, right? So by the end of this bootcamp, you're going to come out with 3 kick-ass full stack projects. By full stack, I mean, front end application, the back end application, there's going to be a database. You guys will deploy it on some server. If you're all students, then you are going to get AWS credits just like that. So I'll show you how to deploy these projects online as well. Okay, and as a little bonus, because a lot of you keep asking, hey, are you going to do this? Are you going to do this? Yes, we also teach you a little bit of React towards the end of the course. Okay, but what we really focus on is, again, we're not a framework. I'm not going to teach you a framework. Okay, I'm a React developer. The phrase itself doesn't make sense to me. I'm a web developer. I write software for the web. Okay, so we teach you along those lines. Okay, we teach you enough JavaScript, enough HTML, enough CSS for you to pick up whichever framework you want. Okay, you have a good grounding there. You have a good grasp of the fundamentals. You're going to do perfectly fine. All right, so with that, I'm sure you guys are just waiting for me to stop stop stalling and just dive right into the code. I know you're excited. Before I do that, I'm just going to take 15 seconds to see if people have some messages. Keen Coder says console.log Slack. It's like saying, printf hello world or cout hello world or print hello world. Yep, that's a JavaScript developer for sure. Console.log Slack. Thanks, Keen Coder. Thanks for coming online. Vinayak, man, brother, you have to trust me on this. Okay, I will do that webinar. I absolutely love you, man. I see you on every one of my webinars. Thank you so much for coming. Please don't ever forget that, don't ever think that I forget or I don't read your messages. I know I have to go back to WhatsApp web, probably do a webinar on dark mode, adding some other stuff. But yeah, I'm going to revisit WhatsApp web. Okay, you've got to trust me on this one, Vinayak. All right. Varsha, hey, welcome back. I think I also saw you in last week's webinar. I'm sorry if I'm if I'm mixing up some names here. Venkatesh, hey, hello, and Rageshwari. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm really sorry if I didn't. But Rageshwari, Venkatesh, Varsha, Vinayak, Keen Coder, Anik, welcome. Okay, hello. I hope you're excited. Please keep, I don't want this to be a very passive thing, okay, wherein I lecture you. This is not a lecture per se, okay. It's more of my way of showing you that hey, JavaScript can be fun, okay. Building the Slack app can be fun, okay. This is more of inspiration. All right, today's webinar, guys, I'll be honest with you, it may seem advanced for those of you who don't know a little bit of JavaScript already, okay, but don't get discouraged by it, okay. See, anything will seem difficult to you if you don't even know the syntax, okay. If you don't even know the words of the language, you're not going to understand anything. But that's not strictly true, okay. Programming languages are not just about the syntax, okay. If that was the case, yeah, everybody would be brilliant programmers, because 6 months, and not even 6 months, 6 weeks, and you'll learn the syntax of any language through and through. Programming is a lot more than that, okay. I would say the majority part of what makes a good programmer is an ability to understand the structure and pattern of programs, okay, regardless of which language it is in. So when I do something like, for instance, document dot create element, okay, you've never heard of it, you've never seen it. Does that mean you should be worried? Does that mean you should say, oh, you know what, too tough, I can't do this? No, don't feel that way at all, okay. A lot of it is just English. All right, document dot create element, what do you think we're going to do here? It's going to create an element, okay. That's it. So as long as you take a deep breath, okay, don't hyper focus on the syntax. Look at the structure, look at the way I'm dividing my sections, look at the way I'm thinking about, this is some data, according to that data I want to change my HTML. Look at the thought process, okay. That's what I want you to engage with, in case you're a beginner, in case you don't have prior experience in JavaScript. All right, a lot of what I'm going to do today isn't rocket science, okay. It's not like I'm going to the moon or anything. It's fairly standard stuff, as long as you know a little bit of JavaScript. All right, with that, what I'm going to do here real quickly is I'm just going to start my countdown timer, okay. This isn't going to be like a speed run, okay. My aim is not to show off what I can do in 45 minutes. It's more of a reminder to you guys that, you know what, 45 minutes is all it takes to build something like this. That's the feeling I want to leave you guys with, okay, that this is doable, this is approachable. You watch a webinar on Tuesday, fine, you didn't understand much, that's also fine. Come back on Saturday, come back on Sunday, watch it again, go through the code, whatever I'm typing, you go ahead and type it as well. 45 minutes, yeah, come on guys, I know you can do this. All right, with that, I have wasted 1 more minute of my time, which probably means, see, this is the reason why I don't get this stuff done on time, okay. Anyway, let's just take a quick look at what our Slack project looks like, okay. This is what we ended up building, right? And the way we built it was, we had one big container called the browser container, which contains everything inside it. The first thing in that browser container was this title bar, if you can see my mouse, where I'm hovering over my mouse here. And then we divided it into 2 sections, right? So this was the chat list section, this is the actual messages section, right? The chat list, these are all list elements, right? These are again headings, that's how we did it. We drew these circles using a span tag, okay, and we added a couple of classes like circle close and then circle maximize, circle minimize. This one is circle online. So we added classes to a span element, to an empty span element, to make it look like that. There are other cleverer ways of doing something like this, and maybe in a future webinar I'll show you how other big websites do it, basically, okay, secrets of the trade. That was the first section. Second section, again guys, really straightforward. You have 3 divs, okay, 3 rectangles, like you have this one over here, the dev team weekly thing, which is the heading of the channel, the subheading for the channel as well. And then you have the messages container, which is scrollable, and then finally you have this this sort of input container, right? So that's where we left off the last time. What you'll notice is, again, the thing that I was telling you about, clicking on these, again, they do nothing, okay? They don't change the state. Clicking on this is not highlighting this, okay? So there's a bunch of things that we're not doing right. You know, a bunch of things that we can do better for sure, okay? And yeah, and these messages, right? Again, as you can see, they're all lorem ipsum. You get the structure, okay? The structure is, I mean, that's where we left it at, so that you just understand, hey, if you had 5 different messages, you probably, you know, change the name, or you would change the text in the HTML directly, okay? And then you would refresh the browser, and the browser would say, oh, okay, now you've changed the HTML, let me do something else. So for instance, if you didn't want this one, right, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the first sort of, you know, this lorem ipsum thing over here, okay? You're just going to delete like a bunch of it, and the browser is going to re-render that, okay? So that's how you would have done it, okay? But again, it would be static, which means if you click on project checkout or sales approvals, this isn't going to change, okay? Because you've hard coded it in HTML. Your HTML is always the same, no matter what you click and what you do. That's not what makes the browser special, okay? That's not what makes the browser special. So before I show you how to do this, you know, sort of magic in Slack, okay? I think what I'm going to do is, let me just show you some JavaScript magic in general, okay? Just like a quick, I don't know, like a 5-minute refresher, or just a little bit of, you know, just a little bit of HTML and CSS and JavaScript, so that you understand what we are going to do in the Slack one, okay? So what I want to do now, okay, is that I want to generate, say, a list of items, okay? How do you usually do that? You say, oh, make an unordered list, okay? Then about make 10 list items, and you know, I want something like this, all right? So this is what ends up happening, right? Just going to increase the font size a bit. So let's just say, hey, you know what, body element, I want the font size to be 3 rems, something like UL. Oh, oops, 3 is too big. Okay, 2 should be good, and let's just give it like a nice line height of, say, 1.5. Yeah, there you go. All right, so we have this, okay? What did we do here again? Essentially, if you look at this, if I, you know, make a unordered list, make about 10 list elements, and I'm using shortcuts here, okay, to say that, you know, basically quickly make 10 list elements with 4 words in each list, and so far so good, okay? It's okay. But the problem is, again, here nothing is, you know, I'm not generating this programmatically, right? It's not a program the way most programming languages are. This is more of a declaration, okay? I'm telling the browser that, hey, you know what, don't use your head too much, draw a UL, inside that you draw these 10 list elements. I don't want you to get creative. I don't want you to, you know, start, you know, don't do for loops, don't do anything. I put 10 list elements, you draw 10 list elements. It's your way of talking to the browser, right? It's not a program per se, because this will not change no matter how many times you refresh your browser. What you can do using JavaScript, okay, is that, see, at the end of the day, when you do this HTML business, right, what the browser does is the browser converts each of this UL and LI into something called as a DOM node, okay? Again, 2 words, the actual word doesn't matter at all, okay? You just have to understand that the browser is keeping track of all of this UL, this LI, okay? It's keeping track of all of that. So if I were to, you know, like select element or something, okay, if I were to say inspect element, let me just quickly show you this part here, right? Okay, so you can see so there's a lot of tags and all, ignore all of that, just focus on this part here for now, okay? You'll notice that the code that we wrote, over here, the browser has tried to make some sense of it, okay, and it's arranging them in this this sort of tree like format, okay, where there's an element called ul. All of these li elements, they're all children of the ul element, okay, because they're coming inside the ul, right? Similarly, body is like the grandparent of this li element, okay. Typical family metaphors, okay. There's nothing clever about it, so that's it, parent child, that's how simple it is, okay. Now suppose you don't declare any of these list elements over here, okay. So to the browser, or suppose you just you just have like one list element over here, okay. What I want to do is I want to create, say, 5 more list elements, but I don't want to type them in my HTML code, okay. I want to do it in JavaScript. Why? Because JavaScript is a programming language. I can do a bunch of complex stuff with it. So I want to use JavaScript to change or to manipulate my HTML, all right. So I could do something like, I have a document, right? This entire thing is one HTML document. I'm going to say document dot create element, okay, and I'm going to say, make me a list element, okay, just create a list element. Now you'll notice that I wrote this code but nothing happened, right? Why has nothing happened? Because I've still not told the browser, my JavaScript is not telling the browser to do anything. It just said, hey, create a list element, that's it. But where in the HTML should you put it? You've not changed the HTML yet, right? So what I can do is I can just say, hey, suppose I want to create this element and I want to give it a name called as EL, okay. So now if I ever want to refer to this newly created list element, I'm going to work with my EL over here. So I could say something like EL dot okay, so before we do anything with EL, let me show you what else I can do. So so let's just say EL dot inner text, okay. So you know how lorem ipsum is the inner text, okay, it's a text inside this li element, right? So when you create a new one, you just want to say hello, I'm a new list item, okay. Now you've set the inner element, the text also, still nothing's happening. Again, so far you've created an element, you've modified the text, but you still haven't changed this HTML, right? And how do you go ahead and how do you change that element? The way you do that is that I'm going to say, I'm going to target this element over here, okay. Using my JavaScript, I'm going to select my ul element, okay. So let's just call it the list. I could say something like get element by ID, okay, and I say list, all right. And whatever element that this guy is going to fetch for me, I just want to just give it a name as well. So I'll just say list element is equal to this. Now I can say something like list element dot append child EL, okay. And you see what happened there? See that little bit of magic, okay. Again guys, all of this super simple, okay, super simple. What I'm doing here is I'm first saying, hey, I want a reference to this UL. Why? Because I'm going to modify this UL. I'm going to add a bunch of other list items inside it. Now I get a reference to this parent, okay. Then what do? I create a new list element using document.create element, and then I give it some text, okay. So it's equivalent to saying li, hello, I'm a new list item, okay. It's equivalent to saying that. And then I'm saying, hey, to the actual list, I want you to add it to the end of that list, okay. Now think about it. Think of what else you can do now. You could say something like create another list element, call it, instead of EL, let's just call it EL2. Okay, guys, don't skewer me over the horrible names. Take care. So you could say something like, hello, I'm a, wait, what? Okay, and then you can go ahead and you can just add this new this new list element EL2. You can add it to the parent list. Okay, so what's happening is the browser first reads this, only draws lorem ipsum. Okay, great. Then it looks at all the CSS, applies all the styles and everything. Then what you're doing is then the JavaScript runs. Okay, and the JavaScript, you first selected the actual list. Okay, you selected by ID. There are other ways of selecting it also. Okay, but let's just focus on this. Let's keep it simple. You select the parent list by ID. Then you end up creating new lists. Okay, and each of the lists that you are creating, each of the list items that you're creating, after you set the text and everything, you just append it to the main list. Okay, so you must be thinking, you know what, if I can do this, okay, if I can, basically if I can create this list item by myself, why, what, let's try and add some, let's try and add a heading. Okay, let's try and add a heading like this. Okay, does it add a heading this way? So this might seem a little confusing. I created a list element. Inside that I wanted to say h2, hello, I'm a new list item. Why is it not happening? For instance, if you did this, right, if you said something like this, okay, you'll see that it adds a second level heading here, right? But it seems like you're doing the same thing, nothing's happening. And the only reason is, it's a very silly reason. Here you're just changing the text inside this EL. Okay, if you want to write HTML instead of text, all you have to do is el.innerHTML. Okay, and then it goes ahead and it just does this. All right, so you could say something like you could add a style tag here. Let me just quickly add a style tag. So we have this, and I want to say that color is red. Okay, so there you go. You can see that you can directly insert HTML without having to write it by yourself. Okay, now why is this such a powerful thing to do? Okay, what amazing things can you do here now? So the first thing that we could do is, suppose I had a list of if I had, say, a list of messages. Okay, and the first message would be, hey, I am message 1. Okay, I'm just declaring like a bunch of messages. I could say I am message 2. You could say, whoa, wait up, message 3, and so on. You could, in JavaScript you can create like a list of these messages. Okay, and then what you can say is, because JavaScript is a programming language, you can actually say all of that. You can say for a message in this messages list, okay, for each message that you see here, go ahead and create create a list element. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say that the inner text is the message itself. Okay, And then finally I could just, I could do something like list element dot append child el. Okay, so now see what's going to happen. The minute I start adding more data over here, okay, I don't have to keep repeating myself again and again. I can just, I can make like a, let's see if I can do this. Okay. Okay, so let me just add some more lines here. Line 4, you could have something like line 5, line 6. Okay, I just need to keep adding stuff to my messages list, to my list of messages, and you'll see that the number of, I don't have to, for each line I don't have to go and say, hey, create a node, append it to this, create a node, append it to this. So I hope you're able to see this nice separation between the data, okay, the thing that we want to display, and the code that we use to generate all of this. Okay, so for instance, in our Slack application, what we'll do is, in JavaScript, we are going to store all of these messages in like one big list. Okay, and we'll have one list for dev team weekly, we'll have one list for project checkout, we'll have one list for sales approvals, one list for Karandeep, one list for this guy, right? And the minute I click this, I'm going to make this sort of code to run. Okay, I'm going to, first I'm going to clear out all of this, and then I'm going to keep adding. So I'll give my, in my JavaScript, I'm going to use these list of messages, and the minute I click on this, I'm going to use this guy's list to generate my messages. I click on this, I'll use this person's list to generate messages, right? I hope that wasn't, that was, I hope you got some of it. Okay. All right. If you have any questions, guys, please let us know in the comment section. Remember, it'll be, the more you interact with it, the more fun you're going to have. Okay, the more things you're going to learn. So if you have any questions, please make sure to to post on the comment section. Okay, so now that we've seen what what this looks like, okay, let's see how this changes how this changes our actual Slack application. Okay, so I'm just going to make a few changes. You know what, I'm going to delete most of these messages that we had here. Okay, I'm just going to keep just the one message. Okay, and everything else we'll generate using JavaScript. Okay, so there you go, all of this is gone. We'll have just the one message. Okay, so for now what I want to do is I want to generate all of my messages dynamically, right? So let me first define all of my messages. It's going to be a list of messages, right? And for those of you who have come in from Python, okay, or who know a little bit of JavaScript, these data structures would, you'd be familiar with these data structures. So let's say, what does each message have? It would have like a sender, right? And the sender would have a name. So suppose the name is Abhinandan, and the sender would have a photo, right? Let's see what photo we were using here. Okay, so we used this one, is it? Okay, so let's use this as a photo. Again, I haven't changed anything as of now. Okay, I'm just defining a list of messages. Okay, just to start off. Then I could say something like the message itself is this, and the last thing that we probably want to define is the time at which the message was created. So something like 10:12 p.m. Okay, this is what this is all I need to make like this one message over here. Okay, and I'll show you how. Similarly, let's just add like 2 or 3 of these messages. Okay, over here let me say lorem 5 Okay, and time I could probably put it as 22 p.m. This instead of Abhinandan could be Anik. Okay, so we have one from Abhinandan, one from Anik, and okay, we could have like 10:19 p.m. or something. So again, we have all of this, and what do we want to do then? Okay, first of all, I want to select my parent list. Okay, so I'll say that, you know what, hey, get me my list element. Okay, so I'll say get element by ID. Okay, and let me see if my UL, okay, because see, I want all of my list elements to come inside this, right? This is my main message container. We have a UL, and you know, there are a bunch of list elements inside it. So if there were 10 messages, there would be 10 list elements over here. So this is the ID of this UL. So I'm just going to select it by the ID. Now list EL will always have a reference to just one second. Yeah, so list EL will always have a reference to my parent list. Okay, to this list. I'm going to create a bunch of new you know, list elements, and then I'll just add it to I'll add it to this big list over here. Okay, so let's see how we'll do that. Again, similarly, we'll say constant messages of the messages list, okay, that we defined over here, this guy. All right, for each one of these messages, what do I want to do? So the first thing I want to make is I want to make a list element, right? So I'll say document dot create element, just create a list element. And for now, let me do something really simple. Okay, so I'll just say message dot content. Okay, that's what I want the inner text of my list item to be. And then finally, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add each one of these list elements. So for each message, I'm making one list element, and that I will add to my main list, right? So my list element dot, append child, and I'll just, I'll append my list element in here. So, oh, so this is not content, this is message dot message, is it? Okay. So yeah, so there you go. Okay, so I'm adding a bunch of list elements, but you'll notice that, hey, this is also a list element, this is also a list element. Why do they look so different? Okay, natural question to ask, perfectly valid question to ask. You'll notice that in all of this, we never really gave it the right class. Okay, we've got to give it the right class. So we could say something like, before we add the list element, I could say something like class list dot add message. So I'm basically, it's a long-winded way of saying, take these guys, okay, make them into list elements, but also give them the class message. But you'll notice that that is not how we are doing it in the first place. Okay, we first have an image element, then we have a div element in our original list. Okay, that's how the styles were created, right? So it's not going to be as straightforward as saying, hey, just create a list element, give it a class message, and put some text inside, and it'll render by itself. That's not going to happen. What we could have done probably is we could have said something like, constant image is equal to document dot create element. Okay, I'm going to create an image element, and then image dot image dot source. I could give it as message dot sender dot photo. All right, and then I could, I'm going to add this guy as well. Okay, to my HTML. So you'll notice we added an image, but again, what did we not do? We didn't give it the right class, right? So if you don't give it the right class, CSS, it'll not magically apply any CSS, right? So the way you give it a class is you say image dot class list, add message photo. Okay, I think that was the one. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this has to go inside the list, right? It shouldn't go inside the list. This has to go inside each list element. Okay, so it can be a little tricky to to do something like this. What you're effectively doing here is, guys, we're creating just 1 second. Okay, so what we're doing here is, first of all, I'm creating a list element. I gave it a class of message. Okay, then I create an image element and I put it inside my list. Then I can create like a div element. Okay, document dot create element. Okay, I'm going to create a div element. Inside this div, I'm going to add my message, my actual message. Okay, so I could have done something like message dot message over here, and then I can add this div so that it comes right after the image over here. So I'm going to say list append child div. Okay, so this is my way of kind of creating the creating each list element. Okay, and you'll notice that it's not as simple as you think, because you've got to create a lot more elements. Okay, it's not as you have to create this div, give it a class of message object, then you've got to create a span, you've got to give it a class of name, then this span, then give it a class of time. Inside that, create another div class, div called content. So there's a lot that that you kind of have to do here. Okay, and it could seem like, array yaar, it's every single HTML tag, I don't want to be able to write all of this nonsense. Okay, it's going to take me a lot of time. Fair point. So in that case, I'm going to show you a nice shortcut, okay, for the purpose of this video. Obviously, if you have to do it the right way, guys, you always do create element, append child. But there's a small hack to all of this. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say, you know what, this is my HTML string. Okay, this is the entire HTML string for each sort of message, right? I'm going to say that for each sort of for each list, for each message, I'm going to generate the HTML string directly. Okay, I'm not going to create li, not going to create image, not going to create div. I'm just going to generate the entire HTML all at once. Okay, and then I will add it to the HTML of the list element, HTML of the UL. Okay, so if we just rename this to UL, okay, this will probably make a little more sense to you guys. Alright, so all I'm saying is, for each message, generate an HTML. For now, it's going to generate the same HTML for every message, which is what we don't want. How can we get around that? We can get around that by doing this. Okay, so you could say something like message.sender.photo, and guys, this is JavaScript specific syntax. Okay, so don't worry if you don't quite get it. You can do this. You can have message sender name. This guy would be message dot created at, and this guy would actually be the content, right? So something like this. Okay, there you go. Let's see, why did Anik not get his own special image? 828 isn't working. 218. Okay, I think that might be the size. So what does Kyle do? Okay, Kyle is great. So let's just go with like depressed Kyle. Okay. Anik, if you're watching, man, I'm really sorry. But yeah, so you can have, you know, Anik show up like that. And now we can actually, you know, we can just get rid of even the first message that we had. Okay, we don't need this now. Okay, so basically now what's happened is, guys, if somebody just gives us a list of messages, okay, suppose by magic we somehow figure out what all of these messages are, then I can, you know, I can kind of go ahead and I can just generate this HTML, right? If I have a list of messages like this. So let's now try to do the part where Dev Team Weekly will have its own list of messages. Sales Approvals will have its own list of messages. Okay, let's try and do that. So let me go ahead and kind of duplicate this. Okay, so we had messages over here. We'll just call it messages. Or you know what? Just 1 second. So okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like smaller, so my messages, okay, would have something like dev team weekly. Okay, I'm going to organize my messages like this. Okay, so that if I go to message dot dev team weekly, okay, it's going to generate those messages for me. Similarly, I could have something like project checkout, okay, and I could have another list of messages. Instead of Abhinandan and Anik, we could have something like Vasu, and you know, Vasu can have his own, you know, you can have some words over there. Hello Edyst. Let's give it a bit of, you know, some time. Okay, and then Vasu and Anik, right? So we'll just go with like 2 messages this time around. So think about our data over here. Okay, we basically have this big list of you know, this dictionary of messages. First item is for dev team weekly, these are the 3 messages. For project checkout, these are the 3 messages. Okay, and what do we want to do here? Basically, if I click on any one of these, first of all, I want all the HTML to go. Okay, if I click on any one of these, I want the HTML to go. That much we are agreed on. Then based on what I clicked, okay, based on which one I ended up clicking, I want those messages to come here. Okay, so I can't just say message of messages anymore. Okay, I'm going to have to rework this part a bit. All right, so let me just comment this out. Okay, and we'll go back and fix this. Okay, so up until now, what do we have? We have a list of messages, right? Now what I want to say is, if I click on dev team weekly, I want dev team weekly's messages to come. So how do we do that? First of all, I'm just going to create a function. Okay, just helps me organize my code much better. I could do something like function, or you know what, let me make it even simpler for you guys. All right, let's see, where is dev team weekly? Okay, we have it here, right? So I'm going to call this dev team weekly. Just let me just give it IDs for now. Okay, and then we'll have something like project checkout. Okay, we've about 8 minutes left, and I'll show you how you know, just how easy, how beautifully we'll be able to do this. All right, so we have dev team weekly, we have project checkout, we have sales approvals, right? Now what I want to do is, I want to say that first of all, get me dev team weekly. Okay, I want a reference to this guy. I want a reference to this list item. Why? Because when I click on it, I want something to happen. Okay, So how do I fetch it? I'm going to say get element by ID again. Okay, and I'm going to say dev team weekly. So it's going to get me this dev team weekly. Then I could say something like, dev weekly dot add event listener. Okay, I'm going to say on click. Okay, when somebody clicks you, what should you do? All right, so when somebody clicks me, I want it to run this function. Okay, this is what I want to happen when somebody comes and clicks this guy. So the first thing I want to do is I want to select so even before that, let me just show you that this works. So I just added like a thing wherein if I click on this, okay, it's going to okay, just one second, add event listener. Pretty sure I got the syntax right. Okay, it's alert. Does alert not work over here? Just give me 1 second, guys, while I confirm something for you. Okay, JavaScript itself was wrong. Okay, I think it'll work now. So if I click on this, you can see a console log, right? Okay, so if I did this, right, if I did alert over here, okay, and again, I just want you to focus on the process. Okay, right now what we want to do is we want to select this guy, and when I click on this guy, I want something to happen. For now, what have I said? When I click on this guy, I want you to run this function that says just alert with hello. Okay, so you click on this, it says alert hello, or this says alert dev team weekly. Similarly, I'll select the other guy, okay, which is what, project checkout, okay, and for that I'm going to alert a different alert. Okay, so let's see this. Okay, so you click on dev team weekly. Sorry. Yeah, so if I click on dev team weekly now, one second, did something go wrong again? Dev team weekly has been defined before. That's fine, no? We didn't define it again, did we? Okay, let me just refresh this once. JavaScript on CodePen can be a little bit of a bother. Okay, so if you click on this, you see dev team weekly. Then if you click on project checkout, you can see that it alerts to project checkout, right? Guys, now things become really straightforward. Okay, what you can say here is you can say let so we could call this something like all messages. Okay, so I'm going to say that, you know what, I just want to fetch the messages for dev team weekly. Okay, I just want to fetch the messages for this guy, and then I want to run this exact code. Okay, all of this that we did before. Okay, I just want to fetch the messages specific to this guy, and then I want you to run this code. So if I click on this, 1 second. So is it not selecting by dev team weekly, is it? And let's come here. Oh, okay, so there's a syntax error. this is a little ugly. Okay, just bear with me for a minute. Okay, yeah. Okay, so notice what we've done now. Okay, when I click on my dev weekly, when I click on this guy, I'm first going to select all the messages belonging to this channel. Okay, and then I'm going to select the list, and then for each one of these messages, okay, I'm going to generate this guy, and then I'm going to add it to, add it to the inner HTML, right? That's what I want to do. So let's see. I think we're still missing something. Not sure what we're missing though. One last time, let me just analyze. Okay, so I think we'll have to refresh again. Yeah, I think from next time onwards, I'm just going to do this on VS Code, okay, because on CodePen, I'm not sure what's the best way to go about it. But yeah, so now you see what happened, right? So now when I click on this, it keeps adding those messages again and again and again, okay, which is again kind of what we were going for, but not really, okay. What we really wanted to do here was, first of all, I want you to set the inner HTML, okay, to an empty string. Okay, every time that I click on this, I want the same set of messages to come again and again. I don't want to keep adding it at the end. Okay, I'm going to do the same exact thing, this entire code, right? What do you think is going to change? The only thing that will change is this part over here. Okay, so instead of saying get by dev team weekly, you're going to say get by project checkout. Okay, and now notice what happens. You click on dev team weekly, you get this. You click on project checkout and you get this. Okay, click on dev team weekly, you get this. You click on project checkout, again you get that, right? We're almost there, right? We've almost kind of accomplished what we set out to do. The one thing that we can probably make, we can clean all of this up a little bit. Okay, so instead of like repeating the code again and again for dev weekly, for project checkout and all of that, instead of repeating it again and again, we can extract the most common sort of logic into a function of its own, and then we can kind of go ahead and do what we want, right? So if you just give me a couple of minutes, I'll show you how. We've already ended our 45 minutes, so I don't want to take up too much of your time right now. What I'm going to do now is just show you how to, so when I click on project checkout, I wanted to have this active class, right? I want my project checkout to have an active class. So let me just quickly sort of, just fix this function here. Okay, let me fix this function here. So I'm going to take out this common logic, right? I'm going to say populate messages. Okay, and my populate messages function is going to do all of this. So I'm going to say, what is the channel name? Okay, and according to the channel name, it's going to find out all the messages, and using those messages, it's just going to do everything that we did right now, right? So this is my populate thingy. One second, I'll just I'm just breaking it into new lines so that you guys can probably see it easily. Okay, so you have an image, you have a div, and all of these guys, they sit inside my div, right? So this is the HTML that I want to keep adding, and over here all I can say is, hey, you know what, when somebody clicks you, populate the messages with the channel name dev team weekly. You go ahead and populate it with, say, project checkout. Okay, so let's just go ahead, refresh once. So let's just go ahead and refresh this once. Okay, all right, so you click on this, you get this, you click on dev weekly, you get dev weekly. And again, when we start off, we kind of want to, we want to do this, right? We want to populate messages for dev team weekly at the start itself, right? That's kind of what we want to do. So so we have this. Okay, now when you refresh the app, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to, so now when you refresh the app, by default dev team weekly comes up. You click on project checkout, you click on dev team weekly, it all works. Okay, it works beautifully, works perfectly, all well and good. All I have to do now is, when I click on a particular element, okay, I want to set it as the active, I want to set it as active, okay, in here. So how am I going to do that? Let's create another function called set active channel, right? And again, what do we need? We need the channel name here, and you'll notice that in the HTML, the name of the channel is what I use as an ID. Okay, so I'll use this as a clever way of kind of just selecting selecting the active channel here. So I'll say select this element here. Okay, so I'm going to say document dot get element by ID, and the channel name, or yeah, let's just call it channel name. Okay, so I'm going to call this as set active channel dev team weekly. Okay, I'm going to say something like this: set active channel dev team weekly. Okay, and here I'm going to say set active channel project checkout. Okay, so every time I click on dev weekly, it should populate the messages and set as the active channel, right? So how do you set as active channel? First of all, you find out the channel name that you want. Okay, this channel name over here, and you'll notice that we add a class to kind of make it active, right? We say it's it's a dot active class. So you could do something like this. You could say li.classList dot add active. Okay, so if I go ahead and if I click on this, you'll notice that it's going to go ahead and add like an active class, right? So these two are the only ones that I did this for. So we did well. Okay, so it's going to add as the active class. The second thing is, we don't want the, if suppose it was unread, okay, if we had not read these messages but then we clicked on it, then we kind of want to remove unread from here, right? So we don't want it to have an unread class. So if I click on this, just make sure that hey, you know what, you've read it, you've actually read it. The third thing is, all of them can't be active, right? Only one of them can be active at any given point of time. So I need to go through all of these channels, all of these direct messages, and I need a way to be able to say, hey, just make this one active, everything else you should mark as inactive. Okay, so what we could do here is, we could say I'm going to say channels list Okay, so everything inside the channels list. If I click on an active channel, I want that to go away. All right. So how do we do that here? Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to first get all channels. Okay, you want to get access to that to all the list elements there, right? So you can actually do something really clever here. You can go ahead and say channels list, okay, and li. So now I have all of these guys, okay. For each channel, I want you to go ahead and, you know, channel dot class list dot remove active. Okay, so if I go ahead and I click on this, there's a small error here. So let's see if this works. Okay, for each, is it? So interesting. I mean, for each should work. Because I think I'd have to query selector all over here, then it becomes for each. 1 second. Hey guys, anyway, I mean, this is slightly more advanced stuff. Okay, I am not sure you'll understand this, you know, but you see what's happening now. Now when I click on this guy, okay, now when I click on any of these fellows, right, it's going to add, you know, when it adds a class over here, it's going to remove all the classes that that it can find. Okay, all the list elements, it's going to go through them, remove the active class, and only set it on, say, project checkout. Okay, similar to that, you could, you know, you could add another one here for something like sales approvals. Okay, and you can just do that here. Okay, that would work as well. Okay, so now we have this. The only problem is, again, we didn't have any data for sales approvals, right? So that's going to be a bit of a problem. So let's just go ahead and add something for like sales approvals as well. Okay, so I'm going to say sales approvals. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and say Abhinandan. You know what, let's take a couple of your names. Okay, so you guys can be on this, you guys can be on the same channel as well. So let me say something like, say, Dheeraj. Okay, I don't know if this will work without any pain. So you go to project checkout, you see project checkout becomes active. It was unread before, now it's no longer unread. You go to sales approvals, you get to see Dheeraj. Go to dev weekly again. So this sort of you know, this sort of thing, we have it done. Okay, we have it done for the last bit. Okay, and I know it's already stretching a little long, but I kind of want to show you how it looks with an actual actual API. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and do that. So an actual API means, again, this data, guys, you are still storing it in JavaScript. Okay, you're storing it by yourself. So you can argue, you know, how is it better than hard coding it into HTML? First of all, you don't get this sort of a behavior. You know, you can do it with some advanced CSS, but you know, this upon clicking, erase everything for each message, generate this HTML and put it, so every message, comes with its own HTML. So this behavior you can only do with JavaScript, okay? But the part where JavaScript truly shines, okay, the part where it's, it's truly kick-ass is this part. All right, and I'll show you in just a bit. So here's what we can do, okay? At Edyst, we created this this backend API, all right? And I don't want to go into too much detail about how we created it, what we did to create it. But rest assured, all that JavaScript, all that data that we had generated before, right? The data that you saw, that data we can fetch from Edyst. Okay, so Edyst API is going to give us the list of messages. We don't even have to hard code it ourselves. So you can do something like, let's just create another function. Okay, I can say fetch messages for channel. Okay, and if you give me a channel name, I'm going to go ahead and fetch those messages. So I could do something like this. I can say, your constant response is, I want you to fetch this URL. Okay, just 1 second. Let me see, guys, just one. All right, so we have this, right? So I'm just going to say that, when somebody gives me a channel name, I want to fetch from an API. Okay, this syntax, again guys, this is the most advanced part of it. I don't even want you to bother learning at this point. Okay, I just want you to bear with me for a little bit while I show you how connecting to a backend makes it just so much better. Okay, just makes it look and feel much better. All right, so let's do this. Let me await, and then I could say something like, const messages is equal to res dot body dot JSON. All right, and let me just console dot log my messages over here. All right, let's see how we get. Oh, we're just getting a list of messages, is it? Okay, fine. I'm just going to return my messages here. So now what I'm going to do, guys, is over here, right? I am going to say fetch messages for channel for each one of these guys. Okay, and you know what, I'm going to pass in messages directly. Okay, so I'm going to say, fetch all the messages here. Okay, yeah, fetch all the messages, populate the messages over here and set the active channel. Okay, similarly I want to be able to do it for all the others, right? So fetch all the messages, populate them here. Okay, and again, this is project checkout, right? We have project checkout. We have sales approvals. All right, now all we need to do is we need to connect like this function and this function, right? These two functions, we need to kind of connect them together, right? So I'm going to say channel name and messages, right? And my messages I'm just going to get passed as a parameter. Okay, so I don't have to, so if I click on sales approval, 1 second, guys. All right, we're nearly there. Okay, it's mostly done. Let's just see that there's a small error somewhere. Okay, so turns out I don't think we can do fetch messages for channel here. Okay, let's see if this works. I don't know what this error is. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm struggling a little with CodePen today for some reason. So it says missing bracket after argument list, right? Which bracket are we missing, guys? Which bracket are we missing? Let's see. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so let's take a look at this now. We still have an error somewhere. Let me clear and let me refresh. Oh man, it is a pain to debug these errors here. Okay, no problem, absolutely no problem. We're almost there, guys. Probably I don't need this. Is that what it was complaining about? So all of these have to now become async functions. Don't worry about async await for now. All right. You click on sales approvals. What's happening? Let's see if I'm even receiving the messages or not. Okay, because I should be getting all these messages. Fetch messages for channel, right? For some reason it's not even calling this guy here. So let me just try it out in my browser window. We're there, guys. We're there. This is much simpler to wrap up. We're almost there. Okay, just bear with me. Dev team weekly. See, this is I think where the problem was. See if it works now. Yep, beautiful. I think it should work now, guys. You click on, it should be able to do this now. So if I click on dev team weekly, it should call this function here, right? So let's see what's happening. Are we missing something? We have dev team weekly, and then it ends up calling this function, which is kind of what we want. Oh, okay, we've got to await this. So let's make this a new function. Okay, function set channel, and it's going to take up a channel name. Okay, and this is what it's going to do, right? It's going to fetch the messages for a given channel. It's going to populate the messages over here. Okay. I mean, I'm not too worried because we're there. Just a little bit of glue that we need to fix. Okay, this JavaScript part is anyway a little bit tricky. Okay, even for people who've been doing it for a while, as you can see. I think I can replace it all with just with this code. So let's say sales approvals here, project checkout over here. Okay, let's hope we can get it right now. It's going to like comment this out, okay, just to see if the other ones are working. For some reason even the other ones aren't working anymore. What are we doing wrong here? So this has dev team weekly, it has all of this covered. Okay, interesting. Okay, I see set channel. Wow, man. Okay, something has gone horribly wrong here. Okay, is it even alerting us anymore? For some reason the click handlers are not they're not getting added here. Okay. Oh, I didn't realize my webcam was off. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to take another 5 minutes, see if I can debug this right now. All right. Right. Okay, this is CodePen acting up, man, because I'm pretty sure I'm not doing anything wrong. If I just refresh, it starts to work. Oh man, this has been a garbage, this utter garbage to work with. Okay, let's just quickly verify whether it works now. Go to set channel. It's going to populate the messages here, right? Okay, there are no messages to populate, but it should set the active channel though. Yeah, so this is working fine. All right, let's see if I connect it. It should work as well. Okay, so if I click on something like, okay, so fetch messages for channel is where did that function go? Okay, so this is an async function. Let's see. Let's see if there are any errors here. Yep, and it is working for the most part. The only thing that changes is I think it's messages dot content. So if I click on sales approval, you see the messages have loaded well. If I click on dev team weekly, these are the messages for dev team weekly. And if I click on project checkout, now going to load all of the load all of the messages in project team checkout. Okay, again, is it optimal? Did we do the right thing? We could have done some things better. For instance, we could have said, you know what, set the active channel first, and when you're setting the active channel, I think that's where we want to kind of remove all of the messages as well. Okay, so we could have done something like this over here. Yeah, this, right? So I could have used this. I've done this, right? So what I'm saying using JavaScript is, when I click on one of these guys, like I click on sales approval, first remove everything, then wait for the messages, then go ahead and add the stuff here, right? So yeah guys, I think this is pretty cool, right? So you click on this, it actually goes ahead and fetches based on which channel you click. So if you click on Karandeep and you click on Karandeep Shreya, it's there'll be a different sort of API call that you can make to the backend, to our backend, to kind of fetch all the messages from there. And yeah, that's about it. That's about it for today. I think we lost about 15 minutes just CodePen doing weird things. I've learned my lesson. No more JavaScript on CodePen. The next few webinars that I do on JavaScript, I'm going to do it on VS Code. Okay. HTML, CSS, I think the updates and all were happening pretty seamlessly. This, yeah, a little bit of an issue there. Okay. Sumit, absolutely, you're right. We can set the scroll Y for this guy to the absolute lowest value. Okay. Very good suggestion. Chandu, thank you. This is the first webinar that we've done at Edyst where our project is actually, it's reacting to the kind of channels that we click on. Okay. And we could have done things like, you could see the different times, you could see the different images coming up. We can actually add emojis. Okay, those are another thing that the Edyst API gives you. I'm going to share a link to the Edyst API in the description once the thing is done, so you can go ahead and kind of build your thing. Okay. Sumit, Dheeraj, thank you so much guys. It's because of people like you who come in, say hello, ask your questions. It really helps me do these sessions week after week. It's not easy coming up with the content. It definitely isn't easy sitting for an hour and talking, but I do it because I know that you guys are learning. Hopefully it inspires some of you guys to just go ahead and become a web developer. Yeah, I am a web developer full time. I mean, not full time, but like my software engineering role at Edyst is that of a full stack web developer, right? And I've done my share of competitive programming. I've done my share of building like ML/AI models. And I can tell you guys, I don't know how it is for you, but for me this is the most fun, the most rewarding. This is amazing for me. Okay, it's amazing to me that we can just add like a little bit of JavaScript here, like 30-40 lines of JavaScript, another 50 lines of CSS, 50 lines of HTML, and my CSS can make this thing look so pretty. My JavaScript, I just showed you, right? JavaScript is going to write all of that HTML for you. That's how simple it makes it. And all of these frameworks, right, like React, Vue, Angular, all of these frameworks, at the end of the day guys, all they're doing is they're just making it easier for you to write that JavaScript. Okay, right now you see, right, we have to do document.create element, and then we have to clear the thing, then we have to reset it again. React isn't some magic, completely different framework. It's not. This is the only thing that React does. Okay, takes some JavaScript, takes some data, and kind of generates your HTML for you. Okay, that's the only thing that React does. Just that it makes it easier. Gives you a couple of helper functions. Some of the boilerplate that you have to write. If you were to do this in plain JavaScript, the way I did it, React will save you the trouble of doing that. Okay, you can go ahead and you can modify it. You can add like a bunch of other things, but essentially that's what React is. Okay, helps you write JavaScript which generates HTML. With that, again, guys, you know me, I'm a simple fellow. I rarely ask you to like, share, subscribe, but I have to do this at the end of the video. I should be doing it 10 times in the middle also. These are long webinars. It takes an enormous amount of effort to prepare the content, show up, do this for you, take your questions, go back and make exercises out of this. All of this that we do here is for the greater service of the bootcamp. Okay, we want to make the world's most engaging, most informative, most exercise driven bootcamp. Okay, that teaches you web development. That's the philosophy of any course that we run at Edyst, right? We want to help you evaluate yourselves. When you're doing JavaScript, I want to give you 100 exercises just for JavaScript. Actually, there are people from the bootcamp in the comment section today. Chandu is one of them. He'll be able to attest just how much HTML, CSS he's been able to pick up in the last, I think it's about 4 weeks since Chandu joined. I'm not sure, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But yeah. So there are success stories like that. Okay, so we want to that's the webcam, that's the bootcamp that we've ended up building. Project centric, exercise centric, live doubt clearing sessions. We go into a lot of detail when it comes to some of these concepts that I show you in these webinars. I go into a lot more detail as to why you would do them, what are the things that you go wrong, that can go wrong, and so on. So that's all from my side. All right, do check us out on the Edyst Webmaster Bootcamp. The link is in the description below. You can come, you can try out the playground, you can do a few questions over there. And if you like the way we teach, do reach out to us. And I would love to have you in the bootcamp, love to see my bootcamp family grow. We're at about, I think, 9 people in total right now. The numbers are going to keep increasing the more that you guys, show up, give us some love. That's all from my side. Hope I've at least been able to inspire a little bit of curiosity in you guys, so that you'll spend the rest of the week trying to learn a little bit of JavaScript. Check out what is this document.create element, what is document.fetch, sorry, not document, just the fetch API. So I think just some of these things, if you look at the code, I hope it makes you curious. Okay, I hope it makes you interested in the field of web development. That's what we are all about, right? With that, I'm going to leave you. Have a wonderful week ahead. Next webinar, I want to do dark mode for WhatsApp. I know it's been on my list for a really long time, and I want to do it because I'll be able to show you another really cool concept over there. Okay, I'll be able to show you how to use CSS variables. So do join us for the next one. We'll keep you posted on when it is. When we do release it, as again, it'll be live. I'll be there to take your questions. Yeah, that's all from my side. Have a wonderful